Something even more concerning is, as we have told you, the attitude that this government has when it comes to illegal boats. Now, for how long have we talked on this show? How long have we seen the results of soft-heartedness, kind-heartedness? Well, of course, it was more than 1,000 people who ended up drowning at sea. And Anthony Albanese, trying to say anything to get elected, and the Australian people fell for it. Remember, he turned around and he said that they've got 3 definite pillars of their attack on further illegal boats.
We'll turn boats back. Turning boats back means that you don't need offshore detention.
Do you remain committed to Operation Sovereign Borders? And if so, do you support the retention of temporary protection visas?
Yes.
But of course, he didn't really mean it, did he? Because he turned around and said this in the same press conference, claiming that his future prime ministerial hearing wasn't up to this job.
Can you just clarify whether or not you plan on ditching offshore processing?
Of course not. It was established in 2013 when I was the Deputy Prime Minister.
So what do you mean when you say turning back boats means you don't need offshore detention?
No, well, that's the preference at the moment. There aren't people who have gone into offshore detention in recent times because the boats have been turned back. It's been effective. We don't support temporary protection visas.
Clear as mud, right? Well, of course, the immigration minister who's putting all of this jumbled together is a bloke called Andrew Giles, very hardcore left-winger whose view is that racism is the biggest thing that needs to be dealt with rather than offshore detention. And how do we know this? Because as we learnt today via the front page of the Australian newspaper, that this government let the legislation completely pass that meant that we were able to have the offshore processing centre that would be needed if people end up in Nauru. And as for the temporary protection visas, that resulted in 30,000 people who waited out the process of the past 10 years, all now getting permanent citizenship. So today, the federal government made a decision which was to quickly rush into the Senate and try and sort of re-scramble the egg. The law had been gone since October. Now, firstly, where's the opposition raising this as a question in question time to watch the Prime Minister dance? It was the Australian newspaper today in February that noticed it was a problem and a quick fix rushed through the Parliament. Now, we don't know how many turnbacks there have been. We don't know if somebody has resulted in successfully making it halfway across and then they end up in places like Nauru. None of us know. But the idea that this is their attitude to safer borders, pretending that, that whole 10 years was just nothing worth talking about. Remember, sugar on the table, meaning there is a chance of ending up as a permanent citizen in Australia, is the business model of the people smugglers. Now, human trafficking is a horrific crime. It's a horrific crime when it involves the sex industry. It's a horrific crime when it involves people smuggling to get people across borders. Remember, Australia takes tens of thousands of refugees every year. There is well and truly a front door and it is open. In terms of legal immigration, we're going to take in, the best part of 200,000 people this year alone. Anyone trying to go through the back door is not only risking their life, but should have no chance of ending up here. But under this government, well, surprise, surprise, they talk the talk-ish about being tough on borders, but they can't even be asked keeping the laws in place of 2 of the 3 prongs when they've got rid of one of the 3 prongs, so really they've only got 1 prong. Now, I presume they've been turning boats back, but does anyone know? Is anyone going to ask? Or do we just have to continue with the year-long distraction about the Constitution and the voice? But there's another example here too. There's a bloke who about 30 years ago was put in jail on drugs charges. This bloke was able to escape from jail and then lived on the northern beaches, and also he lived up around Cessnock, not too far from Newcastle, for 30 years. He was on the run. He was recaptured. He wasn't born here. So the expectation was that as soon as his sentence was over, he goes off to the local detention centre and then see you later, goodbye, you're out of the country. Oh, no. This bloke, who escaped from jail for 30 years, is now going to stay in the country because he wins his deportation battle. So if you get here via a boat, The Labor Party has let 30,000 people who broke the law stay, and now they're letting a bloke who was done on drug charges and who escaped from prison to stay in the country forever. Now, you can tell me the country's changed in the past 18 months, but it hasn't changed that much. But again, much questions about this today? No. We all know what there was to discuss.